Hey YouTube, Poopslag here, and this is TurboFat, an open source Godot puzzle game I've been making. Source code's linked below if you want to see how it all works. But for the past 2 months, I've just been getting this thing totally ready for Steam, meaning like adding all the missing achievements that I had planned, getting rid of the default Godot UI that was still in some places, making gamepads that are globally supported throughout the game, and closing out a few high priority bugs. So anyway, let me show you what I've been doing. So the creature editor was using Godot's built-in color picker to pick your skin color and stuff like that, which had two major problems. The first being that you can't really easily reskin it to look how you want, but most notably, it just did not support keyboard or gamepad at all. You can like move around the different fields, but you can't move the sliders or pick your color at all. So it's a total deal breaker. I drew a few proofs of concept for what I thought my own color picker might look like. The first being I like the idea of having something really small just with a few sliders, and then you switch over to a different tab, and that has the palettes. That way it wouldn't take up too much screen real estate. And then I thought, well, that outer panel's sort of unnecessary. Let's see what it looks like without that. But then I thought, let's just put it all on one tab. That way the player doesn't have to mess with like switching tabs. And then I like the idea of swapping out the default brown color that I was using in my settings menu with a customized color that fits the UI better. And that was the one I went with. So I first implemented these sliders, which was easy enough. I went with HSV sliders instead of RGB sliders because I like the idea of a single slider to change the creature from like red to green instead of having to mess with three. I then needed a set of palettes to use, and I didn't want these to just be the same palettes you get from like Excel or MS Paint. I wanted to have a customized set of colors based on each body part. So I extracted first the palettes which I was using for random customers, and I combined those with palettes people were using for their creatures. That way I would have like, here's a set of colors that are good for like teeth or whatever. Those gave me some duplicates though, so I also screened those out to figure out if these two colors are close enough, then we don't need both in the palette displayer. We'll just keep this one. And that gave me a good set of unique colors, but they weren't sorted at all. So then I wrote an algorithm to sort these colors from brightness from top to bottom and from hue from left to right, and then putting all the whites and grays in the corner. It was kind of a complex sorting algorithm to write, but I think the result looks really cool. So I didn't have time to get to the level editor and really polish it, so I pulled it out of the game. I also reorganized the main menu, moving the little creature editor to the story section so it's obvious this is how you customize your monster for the story. So I freely let the player customize all their controls, including the ones for the UI, which is dangerous for gamepad or keyboard users because you might, using the gamepad, set your controls to something you can't fix, like unbinding everything. So to fix this problem, I made it so now if you set two controls to the same thing, instead of unsetting the old one, it'll swap them. So if you say I want the A button to be moved down, it's like fine, but now down is going to be what the A button used to do. And lastly, if you try to unbind something completely, it'll always just reset it to the default. So at least now you can always fix your problems somehow. It's just sort of tricky to fix them sometimes. So the last little place that used the default Godot UI in my game was this training menu. It had this slider that was default decorated and also this big wide button. And the problem with this button was that it was a lot wider than all the other buttons in my game, so I was going to have to write a new set of textures just for it. And I thought rather than doing that, I don't really love this UI anyway, let's just replace it with this level button scroller. So you can see it uses the same level button style as elsewhere in the game, like in the career mode. And if you press it, it still pops up the menu the same way the old button did, but now you can slide it left and right and click stuff just to pick levels there. So I like this a lot. So I already made 3 proof of concept Steam achievements, and they worked fine, but I couldn't release with just those 3. And it's not just because 3 is a small number, it's because they were for things like complete chapter 2. And I couldn't just have that achievement. That makes no sense when there's like 6 other chapters. So I designed and drew the art for all the different achievements. That part was easy. Coming up with the wordplay and jokes was actually harder. So I went to the community and was like, "Can you guys think of any good like desert puns or island puns? Because I need like 50 puns." And they came up with a lot of good ones. I came up with a few myself, and the result I think is pretty cool. As far as implementing the code for them, I was really proud of how this worked out. I have reusable nodes for each achievement type, like for completing chapter X or getting an X combo. And then I just drop in new values for things like what the achievement name is that it unlocks and what the threshold is you have to clear. And so despite having like 50 achievements, I probably only have like 10 or 12 like pieces of code for them to make them work. And then the last thing that was really important to me was for stuff like smushing a shark unlocks an achievement, I didn't want to have the shark code have like, oh, unlock this achievement in there because I didn't want to have like conflicts if I decided to change that code later. So instead, what I did was I added a signal to my shark code that'll just emit a shark with smush signal, and then all my Steam code over here can hook into that signal. So the result is they're completely compartmentalized. Like, here's my game code, here's my Steam code, and they'll just never ever conflict with each other because I do have a non-Steam version of this game that I still want to work. So one of my playtesters pointed out when you're picking your level, all you see is the level names and you don't know what the level really is. So maybe let's give the player a little hint, I thought. Let's have some icons in the corner so you know when you're picking this level, it's Nibbler, it has a shark, and it has a turtle, and maybe that means something to you. So I went to the community for the icon designs, thinking about like, should it be monochrome, should it be colorful, should they be big, they can go like behind the text, I don't know. I also thought maybe let's have some hints at the bottom, but I ended up scrapping that idea. I think it's more fun to figure out what the icons mean by yourself. I went with these little colorful icons because I think at a glance, it's easier to see what the colors are, and you don't have to look at the icons as closely. I drew about 32, and some are based on the level's mechanics, like if they have like the shark or the carrot mechanic. Some are based on the piece shapes, or just how the level feels. If it feels like, oh man, this level feels fast, or I'm digging a lot instead of building stuff, then those get their own icons. And some of these icons could be sort of applied automatically. So I can just search through all my levels with regex and see which ones use the carrot mechanic. They get the carrot icon. But a lot of the others were more subjective, and I just had to play all 150 levels and manually apply like this gets that tag, this gets that tag. But it's kind of fun playtesting my own game. So there were a whole ton of little tiny bug fixes and enhancements. I wanted Alt Enter to work, so I always try to Alt Enter every game I play. I added it to the Godot input map, and then I added a little bit of code, so that when it detects that input, it toggles full screen. I also made each career region use its own unique set of music, so as you play through the game, you'll unlock new music and it won't be as stale. And then lastly, gamepads do not really work with sliders in Godot. You can't hold a direction to adjust the slider. You have to keep tapping and tapping, and it was so tedious. So I added a little widget I can put under a slider that'll enable it for gamepads. So that's where we're at after August. This was a huge milestone because I had this wall of like 22 monumental tasks of like the UI here is bad, the gamepad doesn't work here, you got to fix this thing, and all that stuff is fixed. The game is ready to sell on Steam. It's done. There are a few other smaller issues I'd kind of like to get to, so I still have a few things left. Maybe like supporting analog sticks would be nice. Just a few cutscenes that don't quite make sense, or places where it's like I'd like to add a few cutscenes here. I had some story snippets I didn't quite get to. And most notably though, a more fun level and reward screen. Right now, when you beat a level, there's just this wall of text. It's not very fun to look at. I was going for this concept of like a printing receipt, but spoiler alert, receipts are boring. So let's make something fun. The game though is set to release on October 15th, so I am looking to meet that date. I still gotta get to like marketing and stuff like that. So point is, I'm gonna be pretty busy until then. This will be my last video, my last YouTube devlog. So wish me luck. If you like the game, please wishlist it on Steam. And otherwise, I'll do a wrap-up video, I guess, after the game is out. And I guess this is it. So thanks so much for keeping me company during this journey. And I guess I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.